All right, now you may ask me, what's the fuzz all about? So you described a relatively complicated process. How is this any easier? Well, let me explain to you how it is easier from a customer-facing perspective. You may remember this picture that I just put up here, which is a stock trade, right? So I put this up in the first lecture. Remember that you have Bob and Sue. Sue wants to sell her ABX shares, so Barrick Gold shares. Bob wants to buy them. Both of them have to go through the brokers that then send these orders to a stock exchange. They send a process transaction to the clearinghouse. It has to go to custodians. It has to go to Broadridge to keep track of the beneficial ownership. And then the money transfer itself would involve also a transfer via the central bank. So it's a very complicated process with many, many different parties, and it takes time, it's costly, and so on and so forth. Now with the blockchain, I've talked so far only about the transfer of money. But in principle, you can transfer anything with the blockchain, anything that can be put into digital format. For instance, formerly when Bob sells his car to Sue, he could also transfer the title registered on the blockchain directly. So let's think about it this way, right? Again, you have Sue and Bob. The easiest way to think about is securities, but in some sense, what a security is just a tokenized asset. So meaning basically a share is a claim on future dividends. You could imagine that you take a house, would be the title of the house, title of a car, and so on and so forth. All of these items are registered in some database. And what a blockchain at its core is just a database. So in other words, anything that can be registered on the blockchain as a unique item or as an item of value can be then also transferred on the blockchain. So in this particular case, Sue has a tokenized asset of Barrick shares that are now registered on the blockchain, and Bob has money. So all that they need to do is that they have to, and so all this information here is stored, you can see, by some identifiers. These are pseudo-anonymous in the sense of that just knowing the identifier does not necessarily identify Sue, but Sue could obviously reveal it. And we talk about some details about how you can even achieve privacy there in a minute. But the bottom line is that both of these have their items registered on the blockchain. So in order to make the transfer, all that Sue has to do is he has to basically write a contract, which would be a conditional contract saying, here's my contract and I'm willing to sell my shares for the following price. And then what Bob could do is Bob can go and send money to that contract. And once the contract receives the funds, receives notification from the network that it receives funds, it will initiate the transfer of the funds and of the title itself and register this whole thing on the blockchain. So in other words, all that is required here is a simple process by which Sue makes the contract, Bob sends money to the contract, and there's an immediate transfer happening. In other words, the trade is equivalent to the settlement.